In today's podcast, I had Eric Hensley on, who had a negative net worth of over $1 million in just terrible credit card debt, personal loans, high interest loans, payday loans, you name it, he had it. And he turned that around faster than anyone I've ever seen. He's in my Future Flipper coaching program. I watched him go from that low point to navigating through the storm and now being a multimillionaire already. He's got 40 new builds going on. He owns 300 rental units. He's got a big wholesaling company, and I'm just super proud of where he's came from. And in this episode, we talked about what it was like going through the eye of the storm, being that much in debt and how he got through it. Also, which for the first time in this podcast, I did a live mentorship. So for the second half of the episode, I went into his business just like I do with any of my students who really need it, and kind of analyze what I see as potential roadblocks in his journey. And I think you guys are going to get a ton of value out of that portion of it. So without further ado, let's jump into the podcast. Are you looking to grow your real estate investing business? My company, Future Flipper, can help. We've taught hundreds of people all over the country how to flip, wholesale, and buy rental properties. And it doesn't matter where you're at in your investing journey. Whether you're trying to get your first deal or scale your company, Future Flipper can help. We have courses, coaching, and events for all levels of investors. So if you want to take the next step, go to futureflipper.com and book a free consultation to see how we can best help you. Once again, that's futureflipper.com. If you've ever wanted to invest with me on my real estate deals, it's now possible. At Pineda Capital, we're purchasing value-add real estate all across the country. This includes multifamily, commercial, and land development. The best part is, with my network, social media presence, and marketing strategies, we're able to get the very best deals that others don't have access to. You can join in with me on those deals if you're an accredited investor. If you want to learn more, head over to pinedacapital.com to see our current opportunities. Once again, that's pinedacapital.com. Welcome to the Ryan Pineda Show, where our mission is to invest.
I only expect to make money in things that I understand.
Innovate.
It's about believing in the future and thinking that the future will be better than the past.
And inspire. I am much more likely to hit my goal just due to putting it out there.
You're now rocking with the best.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Ryan Pineda Show. Today, I've got one of my best student success stories ever. I love his story so much that I said, Eric, I need you to come and tell people this story because it is so crazy to see how far you've come in just like a year and a half. And, to give a quick rundown, Eric had, I don't even know the right word for this, but he was a negative millionaire. That's what I'm going to call it. Like, he had a negative net worth of over $1 million just in terrible debt, like credit cards and payday loans, and like not the good debt that we like in real estate, but like the bad debt that has high interest and it's not tied to anything useful. So, he went from that to being now a multimillionaire in a very short amount of time. And, dude, Eric, man, I'm just proud of you. First off, that's all I want to say. I've got Eric Hensley on the show today, man. What's good?
Nothing, man. It's good to be here.
Yeah.
Good to feel a little bit better than having a negative net worth.
Yeah. It's funny. It's the first time I've ever had to say, I'm like, what is a negative millionaire? But when you came to me, that time, I was like, man, dude, I don't think you realize how bad of a spot you're in.
No. Well, I did. I did. I had to figure something else out.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's give everybody just a quick fill-in of, who you are, where you came from, and, what you're doing today.
Absolutely. So our main market, I live in Nashville. I actually live outside of Nashville, Tennessee, in Murfreesboro. I was a real estate agent from 2015 to about 2018. In 2018, we started doing investing, and I jumped all in.
Yeah.
I go head first, man. There's not a stop button for me on getting into real estate investing. So 2018, I got into some partnerships that didn't work out. 2019, I did the same thing. We did like 20 deals in 2019. My very first flip ever, I borrowed $1.5 million at 3 and 15.
For those you don't know, he's talking 3 points, 15% interest. So $1.5 million, you would have paid $45,000 off the bat. Plus you were paying, man, what's the interest payment on that? Like $18,000 a month or something? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I lost money on that deal.
No way. Your first flip? Go what? I wouldn't have guessed.
So 2019, we partnered again. We probably did around, I could go back and look, but probably around 30 deals in 2019, but I was still an agent at the time. And then at the end of 2019, we started getting serious about the business. My wife and I, Nikki, we started getting very serious about what we were going to do. And we're like, hey, let's make this a real business. So we created the Hensley Group LLC and started really diving in ourselves. It was just Nikki and I. And we hired our first assistant in 2020, and we were definitely. I think we had maybe 25 deals going at once.
Yeah.
When I came.
Yeah.
And we just started slowing that down at the end of 2020. But like when you talk about your story of how like you borrowed credit cards to get your first deal. Well, I did that times 10.
You went after it, dude. You took it to heart.
I think I had a loan that I paid 50% interest on.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that, and I was like, wait, what? How much are you paying? And you're like, I'm paying like, dude, it was crazy. Like you had some loans you were paying 1% a day on.
Yep.
We talk about in real estate, like if you pay a lender 1% a month, like it's a good return. That comes out to 12% a year. And you're like, yeah, no, I pay 1%. I was looking at it. I was like, you pay 1% a day. Like, this is insane.
I had a loan that was daily payments.
Yeah. Dude, it was crazy. So, I'll give my version of, just knowing you throughout our time. So you actually came to my Big Bear event. And it's funny, man, like going back to that event, like some great people who 2 years, well, yeah, it's been about 2 years since then. Yep. Have done some amazing things with their lives and businesses, and some of my favorite people ever came to that event because they came to the event when I was like I wasn't like a nobody, but like way smaller than I am today. And we had 10 people. They stayed at my Big Bear cabins. We spent 3 days in Big Bear learning, having fun. And dude, that was a
freaking hike.
Oh, dude, you were dying on that hike. If you guys are listening to this podcast, they call him Big E, and Big E is really big, like super big. And I'm not going to put a weight limit on him, but man, he's big. He's a big boy. We'll just leave it at that. And yeah, we did the hike. Dude, that was so much fun.
That was fun.
That was one of my favorite events ever.
The wife came.
Yep.
She liked it, loved it.
Yeah. So you ended up calling me maybe, I don't know, 6 months after that event.
Yep.
You were just like, dude, I need help. I'm like so deep into this, I don't even know what to do. And I was like, all right, like tell me about it. And so I remember you started to tell me about it. And I was like, dude, you need to email me every debt you have. I need to fully see this because what you're telling me is like really bad. And you didn't really know the full extent of it at the time. You just knew it was bad.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, dude, I need to know every mortgage, every credit card, every loan. Get this in an Excel spreadsheet for me so I can see it. And also give me a list of all your assets that have, stuff that you could sell, because you don't realize this, but you have to sell like a lot of your properties you own right now in order to, and that's what I told you. I go, are you willing to sell your personal house?
I sold it.
Yep. I remember we got on the phone with you and Nikki, and I was like, are you okay with this? Because you guys need to sell your house.
She was not okay with it.
Yeah. But it was a tough decision.
Good with it now.
Well, and I told you guys the story of me with like, Minnie and I had to sell our houses in order to grow to where we are today many times. Like I had to convince her, I was like, hey, if we sell this, it's going to put us in a better position to grow the businesses. And yeah, we might be taking a step back, or we might have to go rent an apartment or something. And, I know we love this house, but it's going to help us.
Yep.
And we constantly have always made that decision. And it's tough at the time to make that decision.
It's very tough at the time.
Yeah. But now you look at it and it's just like.
Yeah. So we sold our personal house, moved into an apartment for 3 months, then we owned a $300,000 house that we're currently still living in.
Yeah.
And we're flipping a very big house, but it's got a ton of equity in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Dude. So long story short, Eric sends me the list that I asked for. He compiled it together. He's like, dude, I've never done this before. I was like, dude, that's got to change. And so, because you had a bookkeeper or something, you're like, I just don't know my numbers. Like, I don't think I'm making money. And I was like, this happens to a lot of entrepreneurs, by the way, is like, they think they're making all this money because revenue is high and they're selling stuff, but then the money's not there. They're like, where's the money? It's like, because dude, you're not actually making money. You're selling and running a business for no reason. So I gave you the advice. You got into the AllStar Program. And I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to map you out a game plan that I need you to follow. Are you willing to do some really hard things? And you were like, yeah. So I said, here's the plan. I need you to sell these properties. These are your bad apples. I need you to wholesale these, probably cut these ones at a loss. And our goal is to eliminate all of your high interest debt that is just, bad debt that's going to just keep eating you up. The other loans, we can't pay them off right away, but those will be down the road, right? It's the first time in my life I felt like Dave Ramsey, right? Where I'm like, hey, pay off your debt. We don't want any debt with you. And, so we kind of went in that plan. And then I watched you grow throughout your time in the program and just
and we did it quick.
You did it super quick. The one thing I'll say about you is you are a man of action. Anything I've ever said, hey, Eric, I think you should do this, the next day. You're hiring that guy, you're doing whatever. And that's what I really just admire about you is your ability to you don't question it. You're just like, dude, if this is what you tell me to do, I'm gonna do it. Yep. So you paid off those high interest ones.
Yep.
And then what happened?
So we got we paid off probably just under $1 million in unsecured debt, credit card debt, seconds on properties.
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff in probably a 6-month period. And then we went back and started regrowing the business the correct way.
Yeah.
So we started hiring the right people, putting them in place. We really dove heavy into social media.
Yep.
Just to continue to grow our brand.
Yeah.
And in doing that, we continued to grow the business, and probably halfway through 2021, we even decided that, we're not going to flip anymore.
Yeah.
So we started focusing on just wholesale, and new construction, and that's what that's what honestly helped us get out of the position, is because, we had too many good deals.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell people this all the time. You can go broke buying good deals, because we actually just had this conversation before we got on air, but it's there's a difference between profit. There's a difference between net profit. And then there's this thing called cash flow, which most businesses don't really think about. And it's kind of what got you into your problem is I could make $5 million this year, and maybe I net 2 million of it. That's a great business, 40% margin, you're killing it. But guess what? I could still go out of business, even netting $2 million, because I mismanage my cash flow.
Yep.
I'm just constantly, throwing that money into the next deal. I'm throwing that money into something else, and I don't have access to it. And guess what? If you can't pay people and you can't pay your marketing, you can't pay your rent, you go out of business. And so I think the biggest thing for anyone listening is, if you have a business, if you have, especially in real estate where it's so cash heavy, you're constantly reinvesting into the next flip, the next whatever, you have to watch your cash flow like a hawk. I look at my bank accounts every day. I'm just monitoring to see their levels.
And I think with us, we were investing into the right things. We were investing into, bigger pockets than everybody tells you, right?
Yeah.
Long-term cash flow.
Yeah.
By the long-term, we currently own 300 doors. And part of that we bought during, the rough times.
Right.
Now, a year later, 2 years later after the pandemic, it's been fantastic to hold those, but they took a lot of cash.
Yeah. Yeah. And at the time,
hurt us in the short run.
Right. And that's the thing, is balancing the long term and the short term. Because I see people all the time, they're like, "Oh, I want to buy this apartment right now." And it's like, I'm like, dude, well, you kind of need the money from that. Like, you should just wholesale that or flip it and like get the money today, because you're not in a very good cash flow position, right?
Right.
And they're like, but I'm gonna get all this money, cash flow, long term, and I'm gonna get I'm like, apartments are going to be there. Like, this is not the only apartment you're ever going to see in your life. Like, you're going to see, if you're actively hunting deals, there's no limit to all the good deals. And that's why I look at it, because people, they'll tell me, like, do you regret ever selling your flips like all those years ago? Because imagine if you would have held them all. And I'm like, well, I would have had no money. Like, I would have never got to where I'm at. I had to flip them to get the cash to build what I've built. I could not have held every single one of those like, there's no money.
Right.
So it goes back to everyone's situation's different. Now, today I'm a little different, right? Like, I don't have to go flip every property because I got other streams of income. So it's like, yeah, I want to pick that one. Let's keep those. And I would regret selling them now because I didn't have to, but I did have to back then.
Yep. And so did I.
Yeah.
That's why we moved that position.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about just like, what was it like going into that? I want to dive into not where you're at today, because today you're killing it, man. I mean, you're building almost 40 houses. You got these rentals, and you're wholesaling at a high level now, and you're a coach at Future Flipper now, dude, and you're helping a ton of people. It's been fantastic. But I want to hear what it was like going through the storm, dude, because we don't ever interview, like, we interview people who are, very successful, and they talk about what helped them get successful. But I want to hear about the storm as somebody who just got through it, dude.
So I think the biggest thing is you don't know you're in it until you're like in the eye.
Yeah.
Like, the eye of the storm is super calm, super, sunny outside, but then you go any direction and you're back in the hurricane.
Yeah.
And I think that's how it felt. Like, one day we were, everything's fine. The next day we've, got to pay contractors, or we've got to cover payroll, or we've got to, something breaks, in the house, like foundation issue comes up, or, and it depletes you.
Right.
It's tough. It's more mentally than anything. Like, a lot of people don't talk about the mental aspect of this. Like, it's not easy to come in and flip 20 houses.
No.
You can flip one or two, but once you start getting scale, it's tough. It's real tough.
It becomes a business, right? Because you're not the only person on the job anymore.
Correct.
Right? Like, anybody can go flip a house, and work a job. Very simple.
And then we added the extra benefit of Nikki and I, my wife and I, worked together.
Yeah.
So we were together all the time, 24/7.
Going through a really rough time.
Yep.
And then I'm certain
and we
that
were homeschooling.
Oh my, yeah, and this is during COVID.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. So I mean, like, just going through that, man, like, what kept you guys pushing through every day?
I think God, number one.
Yeah.
Nikki and I are both Christian, and I think that was the first thing. I think number two is our relationship oddly got really strong.
Wow.
And I think number three was we knew that it was going to end eventually.
You had faith.
Yeah. Like, because at the time, like, there was nowhere you could go. Like, I'm not going to not pay back my investors. That's never going to happen. Like, I have to sell the shirt off my back. Like, they're going to get paid back.
Right.
I'm not going to let things go backwards in my personal finances. That's not going to happen. I've got 3 kids to take care of, so that's not going to go anywhere. Right. I've got to pay those bills. I've got to take care of them. And you end up realizing that is the only option, is to move forward.
Right.
And make it work.
Yeah.
I think in making it work, though, you stop the disciplined pursuit of less but better.
Right. Right.
Slowing down. Everybody's seen the movie Up, right?
Yeah, great movie.
The dog Doug.
Doug.
That's me. Squirrel, where you see a shiny object or you see a great deal or the next great thing. And what I caught myself doing was just pulling the trigger.
You're like, oh, this is a deal. Oh, that sounds cool.
This is a great deal. Let's do it. There's a 30-unit apartment complex. Great. Let's syndicate it. There's, this is a great deal. Let's do that one. Let's do this one. Oh, I need 20 grand here. All right, let's go do that.
Yeah.
And it ate a lot apart. But as you're coming out of it, you realize that you can't do that anymore. You can't be the dog. You can't be the guy that's looking at 15 different deals and all of them are different areas, right? You've got new construction and flipping and wholesaling and apartments and Airbnb. We've done it all, right? And you have to figure out what you're going to stay focused on long enough to create a business that's an actual business, and that's what we had to do.
Yeah, I hear you, dude. And I'll tell you, like, it's interesting as an entrepreneur who gets pitched many ideas, right? Like, so I got it from both ways. I got people pitching me on ideas completely unrelated to real estate, right? And then I have my own ideas. And I'm like, yo, I got a lot of things I want to do. And then it's something that takes extreme discipline in order to say no.
Yep.
And if people knew everything I said no to, they would think that, man, you only got 7 businesses? Because there's so many that I turned down. And I'm really just pursuing the cherries,
And you with businesses, like me now with deals.
Right.
Like I'm probably saying no to 40, 50 deals and saying yes to 10.
Right.
Like the new construction. That's why we went into new construction.
Right.
We went into the new construction because it was more profitable. It was more consistent. We didn't have you're not going to have a foundation get screwed up in new construction.
Right.
And then when the deal was done, you knew pretty close to what you were going to get.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, we had to figure out how to bring cash in. So that's why we stuck with wholesaling.
Right. Yeah, I would say the plan you and I talked about pre-show is really good with, getting away from flipping and focusing on developing. I think that's great because you have so many developments going on that development requires a totally different, workforce than flipping. It requires a different skill set. Different contractors, different mindset of like, hey, this is what we're pursuing, and this is what we're going to dominate. And I would just advise you, like, there's going to be a time, actually, it's going to happen every week. You're going to have people say, oh, Eric, here's a deal. Like, do you want to flip this? Like, it's an easy 50K, 100K. And you're going to be like, babe, we can make 50K. Like, it's so simple. All I got to do is just buy it and, whatever. And I would just say, don't do it. Just be okay turning down money. That is what I do on a daily basis is like, I literally turn down a ton of money every day from just different things where, yes, it will make money. And yes, it's a good deal.
Right.
But I turn it down because I'm like, dude, the time, the headache, everything else is actually going to lose me money because it takes away my focus from the things that are going to make me millions. I don't need to go make 50K and like get distracted from the millions over here. And that's what you have to like think about in business is like, not everything is like free. It's like, dude, that is not a free deal. The cost is your time and your energy and your mental capacity of thinking about it.
The mental capacity and the energy is the biggest one. Time is one thing, but your mental capacity can because, there are a lot of people that do this. They're not married, they're not dating, they don't have kids. Like I've been married for 12 years this year.
Yeah.
I got an 11-year-old. I have to have mental capacity to be with them and be a good father. And when you're in the thick of very bad deals and very bad business, it takes a lot out of you.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I would just say I've been through it many times. I've learned my lesson of taking on too much. And I know my capacity now, like mentally, of what I'm able to think about. And my employees will tell you, they'll bring me like something that they want to ask me, and I'll snap on them because I'm like, and it's not to be mean or anything. I'm like, why are you bringing this dumb question to like my attention? Like my mental capacity cannot think about this because you know the answer, right? Like that's when I get pissed is when they ask me something that they know the answer to, they can make a decision on. And I'm like, it's not free for you to ask me a question because you asking me this question now brings all your drama into my mental space of like, you know, well, okay, this guy's doing this or what's your ARV on this house? What's, you know, whatever, should we do the deal? I'm like, dude, if you can't figure it out by now, you shouldn't be here. Like I don't have time to deal with this or, you know, like something will happen. And look, this doesn't happen a lot anymore because they've learned over time. I'm like, don't ask me these dumb questions. And it's not to be mean or anything, but like if I were to know every problem in my companies, mentally I couldn't take it, right? I have too many things going on. And if they told me about every little thing, it would prevent me from taking action and doing what I'm supposed to do. But they now know to protect my mental capacity by not bringing up dumb crap that I don't need to know. So you got to be so aware of it's just like, dudes, there's a lot of things that just you shouldn't even know.
And I think that's in growing our team. That's something I've had to really do.
Yeah.
It's just delegate, give away things. I'm kind of a little bit of a control freak. My wife might say I'm a lot of control freak.
Yeah.
But is giving away that type of stuff.
Yeah. I think the big thing is since you and your wife work together, it is something that you should protect as well of like not, I mean, obviously mixing work and your family and your marriage is like always something that's tough when you work together. I'm thankful that my wife and I don't work together for that very reason. Like it's just, it would be very tough for me. How do you guys handle that? I'm just curious from my perspective. You guys said it makes you stronger.
Ours has. So I
Yeah.
think ours, when I was an agent, we were apart. Marriage was tough. When we were apart was the worst. You know, when we weren't together, it was, you know, I was doing my thing. She was being at home.
Right.
It didn't mix well. As we started to grow together, it not only strengthened the business, it strengthened us. Now, we still have blowouts.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think one of the biggest things is figuring out how to shut it off when you walk in the door.
Right.
You know, when I'm at work, it's one way. When we're at home, it's another.
Yeah.
You know, and it's trying to shut that off, shut the phones off, shut the time down. And that's one of the biggest things.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to dive into what it looks like going forward on, you know, building, because as entrepreneurs, we're always trying to grow, right? I don't know many entrepreneurs that got to where they're at and then they're just like, yep, I'm satisfied. I'm good. Because the drive to always grow and succeed is like what helped you get to where you are. And so the idea of like retiring and just stopping is something I always kind of scoff at because I'm like, what do you mean? When am I going to retire? What are you talking about? Like, I ain't stopping.
Exactly.
I get so bored. So I want to talk about just you and, you know, what you're planning to do. But before we do that, let's hear a quick word from our sponsor. Have you ever wanted to invest in real estate, but you didn't have the time to find deals yourself? That's where Fundrise comes in. Fundrise is a crowdfunding platform that has transacted over $5 billion in real estate and has over 150,000 active investors. While many funds, like my own, require accredited investors, Fundrise allows anyone to invest with as little as $500. If you'd like to learn more, check out fundrise.com. Once again, that's fundrise.com. Are you looking to find off-market real estate deals? One of the best tools my team uses is Batch Leads. With Batch Leads, you're able to pull data, manage lists, and send text messages. On top of that, you can get nationwide access to the MLS to get pictures and comps. My team has used Batch Leads to get some of our best deals, so I know it works. If you want to start today, you can get half off your first month by going to batchleads.io and using the promo code Ryan. Once again, that's batchleads.io, promo code Ryan for half off your first month. Now, back to the show. Okay, so pre-show, we were talking about your next move, right? You were like, dude, I need to start spending more time, you know, having a call so I can make sure I'm making the right moves. And I just was like, you know what? Let's discuss it on air as I would talk to any student, so that people can see the behind the scenes of like the thought process.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to grill you like live.
I'm down. Let's do it.
So tell me, like, what were the things you were thinking about doing? Like, what are the current situations?
So current situation. So I own 300 doors. That's about 37 million in long term. And that piece is a long-term asset. So I hired an asset manager to handle that and take that from me. So we're not going to add any more rentals at the moment to that, because I think right now we want to grow our cash position to a really strong point. We want to grow our cash flow in the actual company
Right.
to a really strong point, instead of focusing on long-term. Number two, we did shut the flipping down. For us, it just wasn't a fit. In Nashville, the biggest thing was we were doing new construction anyways. Every house is 1940s, 1930s, old wiring, old plumbing, cast iron. So we were spending 100, 150 on a rehab, and we should have just torn the house down.
Right.
So that's what we did. We actually made a mistake. So we actually made a YouTube video about it, from your advice.
Yeah.
And we got into a house, and the foundation was so bad we had to tear it down.
Wow.
And so we ended up getting, we did new construction before, so we ended up hiring a builder and going through the process, and ended up turning what could have been like a $50,000 loss into a $90,000 profit.
Yeah.
And we're like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Doug comes into, I'm like, we got to do this more.
Yeah.
So in the first quarter of 2021, I bought 30 lots.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, all right, let's figure this out.
Yeah.
So as the year grew, we realized what we were going to stay focused on was wholesaling, to have money coming in every month. We were going to put the asset management aside, and not buy any more long-term rentals, for now. And we wanted to stay focused on new construction and wholesale.
Right.
Well, wholesale.
Right.
If it costs more than $5,000, we're not doing the rehab.
Yeah. That's a good buffer.
And so that's what we're going into 2022 with. We have a team of 10 going in, and most of those, as we talked about before, most of those are sales guys, right?
Right.
Sales guys getting deals, finding deals, instead of the other side where we need to create our back end a lot better.
Right. So, looking at what you're doing, right? You've got this rental portfolio, you've got a bunch of new builds, all these lots. You haven't broke ground on any of them, right?
We do. We're in stages on all of them. So we've got, probably 8 to 10 that are getting ready to be finished. We've got 8 to 10 that are midway, and then we got 8 to 10 that are getting ready to start. But the ones that are getting ready to start.
The finished, you mean like the house is there, it's done?
Correct.
Okay.
Finished, getting ready to go on the market.
Okay, got it. And then, you got your wholesale team, and you guys are doing 6 figures a month now in wholesale. And your biggest thing we were talking about pre-show was you were like, okay, well, I want to buy more. I want to build more. I want to buy multifamily now. How do I get involved with the fund? And you were like, also too, we're trying to build this social media thing even bigger. And I go, dude, let's first talk about these new builds, dude, because you told me about your sales team, right? It's leading to a lot of deal flow, and this is something that most investors focus on, because deals are like, yeah, that's how you make money. And it's great if you're only wholesaling to only focus on the marketing and sales department, because that's really all you need. There ain't much to do with operations.
Correct.
But when you told me about the new builds, I go, well, what does the new build team look like? Because that is a significant endeavor. And, one thing you told me was you partnered with your builder, and they're doing the majority of them, and, they're kind of handling that process.
Right.
And for me, that's a mistake, relying on the builder. Just like it's a mistake to rely on the contractor. Like, you would always send your own project manager to go do that. And you told me, you're the project manager on those, which is fine starting out, but you got 40 of these things, dude. Like, you ain't.
And then Nikki's the designer, so she.
Yeah. And I mean, here's the deal with that is like, whether or not you want to continue in that role, you're not like fit to be the project manager on that anyway, because you're not that kind of like, that's not your expertise. And it's definitely not something that you want to do. I already know you don't want to do it. And, so it's like, that's the first thing is like, you need a superintendent that can hold your builder accountable. Because even though your builder has his own supers on site and has his crews, we would never do that with a flip, right?
Right.
We would never let a contractor just, tell me when things are done. We always have our own project
bill every week.
Yeah, like, okay, I'll pay it, whatever. Like, no, that doesn't happen. And it shouldn't happen on new build either. And I'm actually going through this process now on my dream home and this home I'm thinking about moving into. I've got an interior designer on both of them. We got architect, contractor. I'm already worn out from it, dude. This is 2 houses. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I'm about to hire a project manager for my own house to like just make sure that everything goes smoothly, because we all know how contractors are. I don't care if they're the best. They ain't that good. Like as far as like staying on task.
Or they're on their side.
Yeah. You need somebody who's going to make sure that your interest is, done. So we talked about capacity early on too. Like I asked you, I go, how many houses do you think you could build right now? And we don't know the answer to it because, you just haven't really crossed that bridge.
Yep.
But I'm like, I don't know. I personally would be like, okay, 40 is like a pretty good amount for where I'm at. Like I wouldn't be looking for new land deals or developments at the current situation, especially since you don't really have a back end to monitor these builders yet. So I think you'll need to decide on your capacity of what you're willing to do, how much debt you're willing to take on to do these builds, what kind of staff you're willing to build out to monitor these builds, and
mental capacity.
Yeah, like how much, like, dude, emotional, mental, and stress are you willing to take on? Because, dude, I have 2 freaking new builds right now, and I have brain damage doing them. But if I had
I will have to say, our contractor,
he's a beast.
He's a beast.
What if he dies tomorrow?
That would suck.
No, I mean, like, I don't say that to be grim or anything, but like, that's my I think about these things all the time.
Yeah.
Because I actually had one of our investors at Pineda Capital ask me this question, and it stuck with me because he goes, Ryan, what happens if you die tomorrow? What happens to my investment? And I go, well, here's how it's set up. I've got a trust and will and all these things in place. So if I were to die, here's how everything starts playing out. And I had to ease his mind. And I did have a plan in place because I've thought about these things. And there's a succession plan of like, okay, my sister is able to do this. She understands everything I have. Like, nobody's going to lose their job tomorrow if I die. This doesn't all crumble tomorrow if I die. There's a plan in place and everyone still has a job.
Right.
And I just don't ever want to be the bottleneck. Now, those businesses definitely probably won't grow as big as they would have, but the current customers, the current everything can still move without me. I even think, like, for instance, I think Future Flipper could live on without me in its current form. I think the students can step up and lead it, and we can still, do what we're doing without me. Having guys like yourself lead and, just figuring out what that looks like. But if my point is with you, if your builder were to die tomorrow, what happens?
I'd have to find a new builder quick.
Yeah.
Well, we do right now. We've got our majority of one guy, and then we've got another guy in the wing. But no, if our main builder went down,
and that's the thing, like, and it's not even your builder like dying, because dying could be this dude's, in the hospital. This dude.
Then it comes into like, with new construction, you have to pull a permit, right?
Right.
You have to go through the city. So then you have to switch over the permit to a new builder. So it becomes very big issue. Yeah.
Well, and just like I've seen contractors, quote unquote, die many times, right? Yep. They lose their business because of a cash problem. They, somebody reports them to the building division. They lose their license. So my first build ever, the builder went bankrupt. Exactly. That's my point. This stuff happens all the time. So dying could be literal or metaphorical.
Yep. Their business died.
Yeah. Whatever died. And so that's my biggest fear is like you've got your eggs in one basket with this guy for the majority of them. And you don't have anyone other than yourself really holding him accountable. And so like what I like to do is, first off, I like to really own, I guess, the entirety of the project or whatever it is like I'm doing so that I have complete control, right? I can sub people in, sub them out. But if I am outsourcing a builder, which, you know, you pretty much have to do in new development because I ain't licensed, I ain't going to go do that. I would for sure want multiple builders on these so that it not only keeps my pricing honest because he knows he's bidding against this guy, right? Yep. He also knows if he screws up, this guy's jumping in, right? It's just all about leverage, and you got to have, you know, other people. Even if he's the most talented guy in the world, and even if he's the greatest guy in the world, there still has to be competition and also accountability from your end. And I'm really bad at that with my builders today because, you know, he's a friend, and you know, if things aren't going right, actually, my architect's a better example. You know, we built this thing the last 9 months, and then he quote unquote died. Like he just quit on the project, right? And it's like 9 months wasted, all the holding time cost. And if he was like the only thing I had and the only, like, then I'm like, dude, oh my gosh, imagine if this guy quit on 30 projects and I had no backup plan or whatever. But thankfully it wasn't that big of a deal. Sucks, but we were able to sub him out. So I think that's something for sure to think about as you build out the new development division, because when I look at your business, the most profitable thing you're doing is development, right?
Yes.
The wholesaling is just for cash, right? Like, because development, you ain't getting paid for a while. So you got to create some revenue today. Great. Just wholesale. Don't flip. Do wholesale, do new development. But what are you doing with those 300 units? Like, how's that happening?
So that's why we put the asset manager in place to really dial that in, manage the manager, get better cash flow, you know. And a lot of those deals, right, is syndication, right? So I only own 5-10% of the entire deal, right? But then there's about 85 of them that I own 100% of.
Right.
And that's what was taking a lot of my time. So I had to get those out, finishing the rehabs, getting it in from, you know, short-term debt to long-term debt, and all that's going to be focused on her role. So
okay,
I think getting that off is going to have a good focus.
Okay, so I like that. You know, as you acquire more multifamily, having a team in place to manage it. I think you're in a similar boat with the new development that I am into Pineda Capital, in that I don't know our current capacity on, like, could I go buy 2,000 units tomorrow? I think I could figure out how. I'm not saying no, but like, I don't expect to, right? I'm not built to go buy 2,000 tomorrow.
Right.
I'm built to go buy our building next and then buy another, then buy another. And as we grow, you know, we'll figure it out and I'll keep adding to the team. But the moment you go and buy 100 lots, say, like you buy this 100 lot parcel right now, you're like, okay, we're building 100 houses. Like, okay, well, that just all happened at once. It's not something that you like grew into.
Right.
It's way easier to grow into scale than if it all happens quick. And we were actually talking about this story with Lunar Ecom. You know, when we first launched Lunar Ecom, the problem was I launched it to my students and stuff, and everyone bought like day one, right? So it was like, dude, we had 100 customers in the first week. And it's like, dude, no business is built to go influx 100 in a week. Like, I wouldn't buy 100 houses in a week. Like, I don't have the contractors. I don't have the team built for that, you know? But that's what happened with Lunar. And there was really no way to avoid it, because it was just like, hey, this is a new thing. Who wants it? And everybody's in. And, you know, it just took time to process through everyone and get it situated. But we're in a much better place now. And so, like, any new customer that comes in today, 6 months later, it's much more seamless. But we kind of know our capacity now, 6 months later, having gone through all the bumps and bruises.
I think we're starting to find our capacity a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? Like right now, I wouldn't go buy 5 more.
Yeah.
I just
You know that like, hey, I'm good with what I got. I ain't looking for land. Even if what if a good deal comes?
we've had a couple. And
Okay.
I've learned my lesson. I've learned my lesson.
Okay.
No,
You could wholesale them.
so that was what I was going to say. Land right now, and a lot of people look at land. They're like, oh, I don't know what to do with land. Land is our most profitable deals.
Right.
Wholesaling land is our most profitable deals.
Right.
Knowing what to do with it, how to calculate the ARV of the finished product, what to do with sewer, water, electric, and it's just another bullet in the gun of the wholesale side, right?
Yeah.
But I think capacity-wise for us right now is doing thicker deals, bigger deals,
Right.
Instead of trying to add another 20 deals on the new construction side,
Right.
we want to add deals that are 7 figures.
Yeah. Just do a super luxury multi-million-dollar flip.
Yeah.
Which is ironic because you're partnering up with Amr, who is he's been on the podcast. We'll link to his in the description below. And by the way, guys, if you're liking this conversation, go hit that subscribe button, leave a 5-star review after the show, or right now, actually. But so Amr, it's funny because he's a genius when it comes to development, architecture, and
Architecture is unbelievable.
unbelievable. And he's a student in the AllStar Program, and I after seeing his work, I was like, dude, we got to partner up. And so him and I are doing some new development here in Vegas that we're working on, and he's actually now the architect on my dream home on the mountain. It's funny how that works, right? Like my student who came into this program is so talented, way more talented than me, and he's we're now working together in multiple ways. But to your point of the 7-figure flips, I saw the same thing. I go, man, I'm already doing this development with Amr. I understand it. And he's so talented and he can handle a lot of the legwork with this. So if I could just find good land, I know we can make $1 million plus on a flip. Well, not a flip, a spec build.
Yep.
And I just got to find the right land and let Amr do his thing.
And his design will bring a premium to the market.
Yeah, yeah. It's not anything like anyone's seen. It's
Exactly.
totally different. And so knowing that you have a unique product that no one can emulate, knowing that you're going to obviously negotiate a good deal on the piece of land, it's what we do, and then knowing that you've got the operational capacity to handle it because you've got Amr, you've got, the builder. So I'm with you. Like, that's something that we're doing now since I'm already working with him on these other things.
And it's much different when you can go and do a deal and make 1.1 million.
Yeah. I'd rather do one of those than, 20 flips.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the smaller builds are the same thing. You make a 80, 90 grand on a smaller build
Yeah, your typical.
for the same amount of headache.
Yeah, building a house is building a house.
Correct.
One just is in a better area and it looks different, but they all still.
1,000 square feet bigger, and that's about it.
Your permitting, everything's the same.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's why I'm with you. Like I had a person reach out. He's like, "Dude, do you want to build these? We can build these $500,000 homes here. We'll be all into them for $400." I'm like, dude, that's a lot of headache, dude, to make $100K. Like, for the next 2 years to be developing this piece of land to make $100,000, and even if we have 4 of them to make 400, no, dude, it ain't worth it. But
and I even think you talked about it. Like, who do you want to go against? Do you want to go against a one-off, like super custom that's got phenomenal architecture, interior design, or are you going to go after Lennar?
yeah, I ain't going after Lennar. They've got the market, dude. D.R. Horton, Lennar, these boys, they've been doing this for like 100 years. I'm just some guy who runs a podcast, dude. I'm not trying to do that.
And that's why we, like, even the deals we bought, right? We're going infield. We're not going to a neighborhood to compete with those guys.
Yeah. Yep.
So sticking downtown, sticking with, specific one-offs, 2-off.
Yeah, there's no other houses that you're competing against when you're doing that.
Correct.
Yeah. And that's kind of what we're doing is we're looking. And by the way, if anyone's in Vegas listening to this, here's what I want. Okay. DM me, or actually email me, Ryan at, we'll go with Pineda Capital, Ryan at PinedaCapital.com. if you have something that fits this criteria. What we are looking for in Las Vegas is 2 acre parcels or more. It could be a 5 acre. That's in no HOA, just these dirt lots that are in South Vegas. That's the majority of them. That's it. Just like if you get me a 2 acre that I'm going to get it a good deal. In South Vegas, I think we can build a unique product that doesn't really exist. These, 4 custom homes in a little cul-de-sac that we can go get 3-4 million for. And some people are doing it a little bit, but I think we can do it way better.
That's what I'm starting to find out is people can do it, but when you start really getting a phenomenal designer, phenomenal architect, great builder, maybe have 2 now.
Yeah.
It's a good process.
Yeah.
And it's very profitable.
Right.
Extremely profitable.
Yeah. So
if we could do 10 deals at 10 million, do $1 million a deal.
Easy, dude.
And then just wholesale a little bit.
Just wholesale to make money until that big payday comes.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm with you, dude. So the only thing I'll say for you at this point now is you're at a point in your career where you're now out of the storm, right? And you've got a lot of momentum and great things happening. The biggest thing is not realizing that there are more storms that come with more opportunity, more money, more things
money,
coming.
more problems.
Yeah, no, it's true. It really is true. Like when you have this opportunity, we talked about this pre-show. You're like, okay, I got all this money now. What do I do with it? That's all everyone's first thing, right? And then they go in and say, okay, well, I'm gonna go buy some crypto. I'm gonna go buy this and I'm gonna buy that, right? And you buy all these things, then you're like, and I'm broke again. Like,
Well, for us, we go buy a big apartment complex.
Yeah, whatever it ends up being, right? And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with buying new things and assets and stuff, but for me, anyways, I want to constantly be building up my reserves along the way, right? So, like, I want to be okay having a bunch of cash that doesn't make anything, because that's hard for people to realize. But because for me,
it's like the no-no of real estate investing, right?
I'm different, dude. Because guess what that cash does for me?
Peace of mind.
Yep. I have so much mental, less mental emotional stress.
What do you think the key number is?
It's going to be different for everybody.
6 months in your company, each company?
I think 6 months is a good amount. But the reason I want to be more cash heavy is because I always know there's going to be an opportunity that I want to take advantage of, right? Like, for instance,
quickness works.
Well, for instance, I just bought a lot of money in NFTs, which I was telling you about, like a few $100,000, close to $500,000. And I think I'm going to sell some of them. So, it's not like I'm holding $500,000, but right. If I didn't have the cash, it's not like I could just be like, AE, I'm going to go buy $500,000 NFTs because I think this is a really good opportunity. Like, no, it's only because of building up the reserve that I'm able to see this opportunity and to pounce on it. Versus
same thing with the land, right? Like,
yeah,
see a great deal, you can get a cheaper deal, close in 3 or 4 days.
Well, and think about this, like, the mountain I bought, same deal. Like, I was not looking for that. It just so happened, but I had enough reserves to be able to make it happen and not stress, right? Because there are people, they see a great deal, and you can attest to this. You're like, oh man, I don't have the money, but I'll go find it, right? And then all of a sudden, it's like, all right, well now, freak, man, I still have no money, but now I have this extra thing going on in my life.
And no money.
And still I'm broke, right? So, like,
I'm a broke millionaire.
Dude, every real estate investor is a broke millionaire. That's, guys, I didn't want to admit this on camera, but your favorite real estate guru is broke because we're just always putting it into the next deal.
Yep.
And so my point is, for me, as like my wealth grows, I'm constantly still trying to build my cash reserves and then never like go to zero like all these guys say.
Right.
And
I think that's one thing that I had to do too, is like when we first, as we talked earlier, was, I set aside 20 grand.
Yeah.
And I didn't touch it.
Yeah.
And then it was 40.
And it was so tempting to touch it, right?
Oh, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're always like, oh, dude, I could put this towards whatever.
Some crypto.
Yeah, you could. You could put,
Some watches.
and that's the thing is having the discipline to not use that money.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
So that's going to be the big thing I think for you that I'm going to like kind of like leave you with is like, hey, you're having a ton of success. You're making more money than you ever have. You've got a lot of great things going on. Start building the habits now to say no to the majority of things. If it doesn't fit the core plan of what you're doing of, wholesaling at a high level, spec building at a high level, and, potentially buying more apartments, I would just say no to it. Like there's a million things that you can do, but to me, you're not at the point where you have the time to do it because your time is still so in those things.
Like social media. Like we tried. And I mean, I thought we did pretty good.
You did good. Yeah.
But, it took a lot of time.
Right.
Throwing out 3 videos a week.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And I tell this to people all the time. In all businesses, there are 2 things to think about. There's the long-term and the short-term, right? So like with social media, it's purely like a long-term play. Nobody gets rich tomorrow making a podcast, right?
Right.
Takes a long time to build the audience, to put out content, to learn, to develop it, right? But long-term, it is worth it. We all can agree that it's worth it, right? But anytime you spend an hour in long-term, you take an hour from short-term. There's always give and take. And so short-term means, dang, I can't go get that deal. I can't check that spec build. I can't hire that person. I can't build the process that I want in this company. And so you have to understand where you're at because a lot of our future flippers want to do social media.
Yep.
And a lot of them are doing it good. But, at the same time, I'm always like, guys, here's the deal. I'm not saying don't do any social media, but I'm also saying, like you got to find the balance for you.
Exactly. And because when we did it, we jumped in like 3 YouTube videos, a TikTok, a reel every day.
But if it puts your business at jeopardy, you can't do it. Yeah. And so that's my point is like figuring out the balance. And people may think like I've got a lot of stuff juggling, but you've been hanging out with me here all day. Like, at the end of the day, I do not jump into the next endeavor until the other one is fully automated.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, I think later on you can do stuff, but there's still a bunch I want to see you automate and build before going to the next shiny object. And the last thing I'll say about shiny objects is you have to make sure that the reward of that shiny object is significantly better than anything you're currently doing.
That's great. Yeah.
Because every shiny...
most of the time they're not.
They're not. It's like, yeah, you can make money, but dude, you'd be better off just buying another lot.
Right.
And you already have the infrastructure. You're already building it. Why take on this whole new endeavor?
Exactly.
So that's what I always look at, man, is like, man, if I'm going to do this shiny object, it better be freaking better than anything else I currently have. And that was why I took on Lunar. I just knew it could be huge. That's why I took on Pineda Capital, because I knew we could build that huge. And you will see if there's anything else you see me do, it's because I think it's better than all of those.
I guess I'd have listened on NFTs.
Yeah. And I'm giving hints about like my future plans, but let me tell you, dude, the more I buy NFTs and the more I get into the belly of it, the more I realize like, oh my gosh, like if I did it right, I mean, NFTs alone could, I don't want to use the B word, but it could make, me or anyone a billionaire if you just do it the right way. And I mean, real estate can make you a billionaire. A tech company can make you a billionaire. Like there's a lot of ways to, and I don't even want to be like, being a billionaire is not like the end goal or anything. Like
number one way though is to own a business and run it well.
That's true. That's the only way. Nobody ever became a billionaire just unless he inherited it, but nobody became a billionaire by not owning a business. Correct. You have to own a business. And
who's the wealthiest people you know? They're business owners, not real estate owners.
Actually, let me take that back. There is one billionaire who didn't own a business, but he kind of did, that I can think of. Steve Ballmer. Steve Ballmer, he owns the Clippers. He got in on Microsoft really early. And so he was up helping Bill Gates do it.
Of a company, right?
Well, no, he was he worked for Microsoft early, and then he got promoted to CEO when Bill Gates, I think, like stepped away, right? So he became the CEO of Microsoft, and because he was in so early, and he really helped build the company. You know, he got rewarded. He's worth like $20 billion. But I mean, like he had ownership, right? He had stock. He had so I mean, technically he was. He just wasn't the founder. You know.
Fair.
So, but my point is, I think NFTs are. Oh my gosh, dude. I think they're going to be so big. And I mean, crypto as a whole is going to be big, but
make sure your first business is running well, then go invest.
That's my point. And that's what I told everyone on the call 2 Tuesdays ago when I was explaining to them why I'm so bullish on, you know, real estate in the metaverse and stuff. I was like, guys, I'm telling you this just because like you should like have it on your radar, but none of you should go buy it right now. You're not in a place where you should buy it. You're not in a place where you can devote your attention to it because none of your businesses like are at the point where you can go devote all your time to NFTs.
Exactly.
You know? So work on this business. Be aware of this other stuff in your free time when you're just kind of got nothing to do. Go educate yourself, watch YouTubes and whatever. But don't start new businesses until the other ones are in a place where they don't really need you.
Exactly.
So... Well, dude, you did a good job, man. Grilled live. Guys, if you like that segment, I didn't really even anticipate to do that, but if you like this segment of what mentorship looks like, make sure you're subscribed. And you want to join the group, Eric and I, well, you know, Future Flipper, go to futureflipper.com and you can apply to be in the AllStar Program.
You can request me as your coach. I'm not nice.
Dude, Eric is... He's going to push you to do... If you ain't taking action, you're going to hear about it. Dude. Well, bro, I just want to say I'm super proud of how far you've come. Honored to just be a part of your journey and to have you just share your story and be vulnerable and transparent about, you know, everything that you went through. And I think it's going to be a huge inspiration to people who listen, man. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
happy to be here. Always glad to get mentored. And I think that was the biggest thing that helped me out of it too, is having somebody to constantly be like, hey, look, you know, you asked earlier, what was the things you did? I also had a good accountability system of just keep going.
Yeah.
And people to talk to.
Yeah. It's huge, dude. And I just love seeing it. I'm excited to see what you do this next year. It's gonna be epic, dude. So
I'll tell you one thing I'm not gonna do is buy NFTs.
Not yet, but just be aware. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, subscribe. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace. Thanks for watching the Ryan Pineda Show. If you want to work with me, head over to ryanpineda.com. You can find my courses, coaching programs, and upcoming events. We also have free resources you can download, so head over to ryanpineda.com.